Hi again everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SPI Vidcast. Today I'll be discussing some of the ideas and theories behind what a third eye is, and then we'll also be hearing from Miss Victoria, who will be sharing with us her own personal experiences with her own abilities as someone who possesses the third eye. In Hindu and Buddhist thought, the third eye is said to be one of the 7 chakras on our body. It is said to be the Ajna chakra, which sits in between the eyebrows and above the actual eyes which we see from. In Hindu and Buddhist thought, therefore, the third eye is seen as a way to enlightenment, to show you the way, the path towards enlightenment. In the discipline of theosophy, on the other hand, the third eye is thought of as something very different from the Hindu and Buddhist traditions. Theosophy is a branch of study that tries to study man's true spiritual nature, and especially man's relationship with God. Theosophy doesn't limit itself to just one religion or one set of religious beliefs. It looks at everything, all the various religions, all the various religious beliefs, and tries to formulate certain arguments about man's true spiritual nature. Pictured here is Helena Blavatsky, a prominent theosopher, and she says that the third eye is actually a real physical part of our bodies. It really does exist. It is the pineal gland that sits in between our right and left brains. It is in our brain, but it sits in between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. This is the pineal gland. It is pictured of a human brain, but in animals such as bullfrogs and other amphibians and reptiles, the pineal gland is actually related to their parietal eye. This parietal eye is not used to see, rather it is used as a photoreceptor. That means it is used to gauge how much light there is, where the light is coming from, and such. According to theosophers, for humans, we can actually harness the power of our pineal gland to be able to see things that other people cannot see, such as
I see dead people.
Yes, indeed, there are amongst us who can sense other things that others can't. For example, seeing dead people. Now, I would argue that these people have an extra sense that others don't. Pictured here are the 5 senses that are common to all of us: hearing, sight, taste, smell, and touch. Of course, there are other senses such as the exteroception and proprioception, but that's another story. That's everybody has those two as well, but those are kind of like a bit more secondary senses. What I'm talking about is being able to sense something. For example, the hairs on your neck will start to stand. Being able to feel chills down your spine. Being able to actually see something that no one else can see, or smell something that no one else can smell. Now we'll listen to Miss Victoria, who will share with us her own experiences as someone with the third eye.
When I was as young as kindergarten aged, I used to play the keyboards at night with my headphones on, even after my parents had gone to bed. And I think the very first memory I have of seeing something that wasn't human or earthly was once when I was playing the keyboards, and there was this woman or feminine figure in a very long white cloak with long black hair suddenly playing along with me. So looking down at my keyboard and my keys, it was my hands and her hands as well. And as a child, I couldn't really discriminate. I didn't know she wasn't a person. But as she continued to play, the flesh on her fingernails started to recede, and she just became nails. All that was left of her hands were nails, and the piano began to bleed. So I was so frightened. I ran to my parents' bedroom, told them about it, and they kind of chided me for telling lies or for having an imaginative mind or for watching too many horror movies. But I guess across the next few weeks, I kept seeing the same thing. occasionally they would hear me speaking to someone, or if I rushed into the bedroom again and told them the same thing, they realized it was a pattern that was recurring. I think since then I do still see things, but not at the same intensity. For example, probably not as often or with less excruciating detail, but also in part because I'm a Christian and I believe in the faith, and I've always been praying against this since my late teens or early 20s. It was a period where it got so bad for weeks on end I just never slept because those things were plaguing me. So I've always been praying against this, and although I still see them now, it's not as intense as it used to be. I'm not sure whether or not to call this an ability, but it's not something I talk about very loosely with people, at least not now anymore. When I was in primary school, I used to tell some friends about it, and it's just harmless banter. They would make fun of me to say I was making things up for attention. But I think my close friends, when they see me really frightened and close to tears, they would understand and treat me with caution. Probably be wary of what I'm saying, but also not want to spend too much time in the place where I see things. Then when it went on to secondary school, this was when it got a bit annoying, along with JC, because my friends who knew would sometimes come up to me in the middle of the night when we're at school camps or chalets and taunt me and say, "Do you see things now? Do you see things now? Is this person clean? Is that person clean?" And sometimes from chalets we would venture off to darker areas around Changi Village or along past areas, and they kept joking that I should be the first to lead the pack because I would lead them across less spiritual or more spiritual, clean or dirty places, depending on the level of adventure they wanted. For some time, I guess they thought it was fun, but to me it never was, and I felt sometimes that I was treated a bit like a joke. Then again, my really close friends who grew up with me and who understand how I feel, I don't think they treat me any differently, but if I do call them in the middle of the night at 3 or 4 and tell them I'm afraid, they never really question me. They just spend time with me until I feel comfortable to go back to what I'm doing or to fall asleep again. Am I convinced of my ability? I think there's several ways to answer this. So if you're asking if I know for sure that the things I've seen are real, then yes. If you're asking if I'm convinced I have some sort of a supernatural power, I don't think so, because I don't think there's anything really special about this. I know quite a few people who also have the third eye to different degrees. Some people can summon this ability at will, others like me can't. Sometimes they appear to me and sometimes they don't. Most of the time I'm just trying to avoid them myself. To be honest, I'm not really sure if there is anything I want to do with this ability. I'm not sure I want to hone it or develop it any further. But I honestly feel that this awareness of things around us that are more or less than human or more or less earthly has really taught me to be very empathetic to objects and places and spaces that I frequent. There's a lot of totemic empathy that we can practice. There's a lot of respect that we can give to each other. It's not necessarily something I would want to fear. So I think if anything, it's teaching me just to treat people, things, anything that's different from I with more respect.
So now, after hearing from Miss Victoria, what do you think? Do you think that the third eye is something that is real or something that is imagined? Do you yourself possess the third eye, or do you know someone who actually does? I will conclude this episode of the Vidcast with my own reflections as earlier filmed by Famegate Studios. Till next time, goodbye.
People who have the third eye, from my experience with a lot of people, they would have been ostracized since young. They would have seen something, and then their parents or their cousins or their siblings would say, "Oh, don't be ridiculous, there's nothing there." But they insist that there is something over there. And so they felt this sense of alienation between themselves and other humans. while at the same time they felt themselves to be a little bit different from other humans because they can see things that others can't. What I would like to advise them is to actually try to read up more on energies, read up more on psychic telekinesis, psychokinesis, and to get in touch with this sensitive side of theirs so that they can understand themselves better. When they understand themselves better, only then can they actually temper the way that they talk to others when they tell others that there is something or some presence in that area. One message that goes out to them that they are not alone. There are a lot of other people in this world with their gift, and they shouldn't be too hard on themselves.